So please welcome Sarah Granahan to the show. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me, Ashley. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Oh, I'm so happy to see you. And, I all the way from North Carolina, all my magical friends lately are from there. And it's so funny. I'm like, geez, what is going on over there? You're a connection with Jeannie Winters, and
Mhm.
I was taking Reiki from a woman there, and it's just so cool. There's something in the soil there, I think, that brings all these magical people to North Carolina.
Yeah, yeah. And I always wanted to be on your coast. So I always thought I'd be a West Coast girl. I was waiting to get out of college and try to get a job out that way. And then I met my husband and they're like, oh, we're going to the East Coast. I'm like, what? That's not the right coast I wanted to be on. But when I came out here, it was just so beautiful and very similar, like, great weather, sunshine, water access. We're close to the mountains where we are. Though when I moved out here, I remember being like, does anyone practice Reiki or energy work or, any of that kind of stuff? And began finding the tribe, and then it has definitely grown though. So like you
Huh.
said, there's a lot of people out here and Jeannie Winters is amazing. Like I love her so much. So, actually she was the connection, that introduced me to you. So, really thankful for that and everything too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we're coast to coast today.
Yeah, we are. I love it. And
Yeah.
just to even be able to do this. And speaking of that, so I want everyone to understand I've had a session with you, and we're
Mhm.
going to get into it, and we're going to get into your story.
Mhm.
But the power, there's so much magic when I have experienced your magic before I have this interview, because it takes the depth of this interview so much deeper because
Mhm.
I've experienced what you are like. Your gifts are beyond like Jeannie's note. That's no joke. Like when she's told me about you, and I was like, oh, I would love to experience the magic. And I think
Mhm.
there's so much, like I said, just power in experiencing you before I bring you on so I can shout you to the mountains, because what I experienced with you was so different and unique. And
Mhm.
it would be hard for me to be like full authentic interview without having that experience. I could have, but that experience will make this time together so much more. But let's go to the early 2000s, and kind of your background and where you
Mhm.
started uncovering your magic. The breadcrumbs that led you to here, really. Like, kind of
Mhm.
go. I love to start because there's so much more story there. It's not just like one day my name's Sarah Granahan and I live in North Carolina and I have a healing center and
Yeah.
I do all this stuff. So take us
Yeah.
to that, where you think would be a good place.
Yeah, I definitely am. The vision I'm seeing is like a diamond in the rough. It's like a diamond has to have a lot of pressure, to be created, to be that, beautiful, shiny like aspect. And there was definitely a lot of pressure, a lot of hitting brick walls, a lot of like unknown things, and things just weren't flowing for me. So back in I was a young person and like just getting out of college in like the early 2000s, and didn't quite know what I wanted to do. I just know I wanted to help people. I felt a call towards like the medical field. I'm like, maybe I should be a nurse. Maybe I should be a PA. I don't know about med school. That might be a lot for me. So I was kind of gravitating towards that because a lot of my family lineage are doctors and nurses,
Oh,
my
okay.
father's side and everything. So, and I just felt like, well, maybe it's counseling though, maybe it's, becoming a talk therapist, or a counselor of some sort. But I just nothing felt like sat right with me. And also while growing up, I realized, well, I know now I'm an intuitive empath. So I was very sensitive, and it's so funny because in my family lineage, I don't look like my family members. Like I have
Huh.
light green eyes, like light, green eyes. I had lighter hair and it's curls, and all my family members have brown eyes and really dark hair, and I just felt like kind of like, like I actually asked my mom growing up, this is so funny. I was like, am I adopted? Like I had asked her that like when I was really little, and she laughed so hard and she's like, no, you're not adopted. She's like, why would you ask that? I'm like, because I'm like, I don't look like you guys, but that's
Huh.
like the beauty of biology and genes and, families. but I did feel like a little bit different because I was very sensitive. I just could feel a lot. I had a lot of different times where I all of a sudden would have a stomach ache, or I'd feel scared, or I would not sleep well, and just like some different things going on. And I mean, being a kid, I was like, I guess I just have a big imagination, you know. I was very creative. I'm a Pisces, so there we're creative anyway, you know. And so I remember my mom just being like, you know, you're gonna be eaten up by the world. Like you better get a thicker skin, you know, on you. And I was like, oh gosh. So fast forward to college, I just didn't quite know what I wanted to study. And I felt like, so I tried out nursing a little bit and it just still didn't feel right. And then I met my husband and he's like, well, I feel like for counseling, you would take things so hard, like, you know, helping people with, drama and traumas. And so I just couldn't really figure it out. But I realized what I really wanted to do was study all the things in the Holistic Nurses Association I landed on. And they were studying Reiki and energy and like alternative ways to, you know, help with patients and people like in conjunction with their health plan, you know, to make them feel better, to like bring more compassion or caring or help with coping mechanisms. So I was very interested in all that. And so I started kind of getting the idea like, well, maybe I should just study that stuff, you know, maybe I could just do that stuff. But there was no degree program, or at the time, I didn't know where to go for that, you know, and how to start learning those things. But what started happening around that same time is I started not feeling well. Um, I had these different random like pains, and my hair was like falling out, and I was losing weight, and my digestive tract was all upset. And I'd go to the doctor, and they would look and do tests and blood tests and test me for allergies and things. And I came back, I mean, they literally were like, you're totally fine. You should be a healthy 24-year-old, 25-year-old girl. Like, and I'm like, I'll have no energy and I don't feel well. I hardly could go to work, you know, working my full-time job at the time at my design firm and that I was at. And so I kept on getting told like you should be fine. We don't know why you, and one doctor even said it must be all in your head. And I cried about that. I cried after I left that appointment because I was like, I know I'm not making this stuff up. I literally have symptoms that I don't feel well and I don't know what's wrong. So I studied anthropology in college, and I started thinking, well, what do tribes and people around the world who don't have big pharma and medicines like we do here do when they don't feel well? Like, because they're living and surviving, and maybe there's other people out there that start, you know, that don't feel well, that are doing other things. Let me learn about it. So back then it was like chat rooms, you know, you'd go into, and I remember going into one and people were just like, some people in there were like, my doctor wants me to have surgery, but I still don't feel well. And you know, it was there were a lot of people looking for help and different things, but they just weren't quite finding the medicines or the treatments that really could help them, you know. And so I started reading through, and people were like, well, Reiki really helped me, or energy work, and I did this, or I tried this, and I did this retreat. And so I started looking into those things because I'm like, well, I mean, I don't have anything else to lose, and I'm being, you know, hitting brick walls here. There's nothing else anyone can do for me, and I don't want to feel like I have to quit my job and like move back in with my mom and like, you know, just live at home like in a bed or something. So I started looking into that. I landed on Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life book,
Yes, I
which
love
I
that.
know you know because
Yes.
of what you're into and the affirmations. And that was the first book that kind of like God led me to. And it was like, oh my gosh. And so and that research is so interesting because I always thought maybe she created that, but she was like, no, this was research done in the 1800s by physicians and different people studying the connection between the mental emotional connection with physical body symptoms. I'm like, you know, just like, you know, mind blown emoji, you know. And so
Right.
I was like, this is amazing. So I just thought, I have nothing else to lose. I'm going to try to use some of this. So I read that book quickly. I loved it. And then I would take like a note card and I would write down, depending on how I felt that morning, if I, depending on what symptoms I had, I'd write down like the affirmations to correct them, you know, and then I would say them to myself like once or twice or three times like a day, you know, in between work. Like maybe I'd go to the bathroom and I'd read it, or like I'd
Oh,
lunch, I'd do that. And I really honestly realized I started feeling better. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm not taking any medicines. The doctors don't know what to do, and I am starting to feel better. So I was like, there's something to this. And I just started telling like all my friends about it who would listen. You know, back then people were just kind of like, I don't know, you know, maybe that works. You know, I'm like, no, it's really helping me, you know. So I told God and spirit, I'm like, I want to do this for people. Like I want to show and teach other people, like in those chat rooms that are feeling upset, that there's more than just the physical body symptoms and then just a treatment. And then if you don't feel well still, there's nothing we can do. Like there's other things you can find to do. So, and it's like, it doesn't hurt to help or try it. I mean, if it doesn't work for somebody, it doesn't work, but it was really working for me. So I got into then energy work and wanting to take Reiki, but I ended up taking Healing Touch first because they had like it was developed by a nurse, and they had a big program where they taught you, and you had to do like 100 clinical hours before you could start seeing clients and stuff. So I just really wanted that like experience of that education for me that I felt like I wish they had in college, because I would have done all that holistic nurses, program
Yes.
if they had something like that. So I started with Healing Touch after I had my first baby, my first daughter. Like almost 15 years ago now, and I just kept going from there. Like I kept feeling better, things that I understood everything they were talking about, what Louise Hay book's talking about. And then I really realized that like when I see clients, I lean on those tools, and a lot of people don't know about them, and a lot of people are, some of them are familiar with affirmations, like you might, notice that too, but they haven't maybe applied them as often. And so it's really amazing what your mindset can do to help, just kind of, because we're all energy. So it's like if your mindset's a certain way or a certain level or frequency that's maybe low, or like you're not feeling well, your surroundings are going to kind of match that vibration. So if you want to get out of there, like I know a lot of people feel like I feel like people feel, well, these are the cards I've been dealt in life, and this is just the life I have to live. And so what I realized going through that situation was that no, this isn't the life you have to live. You can
Right.
co-create a different experience, and it can be even better than you could ever imagine if you just put a little bit of work into it. But the thing is that there's no easy button with it. It's not like a pill you can take, or a drink you can drink and then it all just changes. It does take some work and some studying and just intentions and focus. But with that, there's so much progress that you can experience. And you probably know that from the people that you've worked with, right,
Yeah,
Asha?
you know what you're bringing up to me. So 25 years ago, I opened a day spa with
Oh,
nothing, like zero, like not even just on credit cards. Like
yeah.
it was like fake it till you make it.
Mhm.
And was in Carlsbad, and Louise Hay, her publishing company where she sold
Yeah,
all of
Hay
her
House.
books, and her Hay
Yeah.
House is in
Yeah.
Carlsbad, right?
Oh, yes, it
And
is.
so, yeah, so in my entry of the day spa, I sold that book. That was one of my main books that I had. Like I had 10 of them. I'd always give them away to people, and all of her affirmation cards, those, the cards that you'd read every day.
Mhm.
But so think of that. That was in year 2000, like right around 9/11. So
Okay.
2001. So I
Yeah.
remember people saying, "You're opening a day spa right after the 9/11." I'm like, I know. But it didn't dawn on me until you started talking about that, because it's around that same time.
Mhm.
It is, I had Reiki people coming to me. I
Uh-huh.
had Qigong. I had breath work. I had these but that was 25 years ago. And it was like, I don't know, it was like almost now, fast forward to 2025.
Yeah.
And now look, like
It's like you're
that's
full
like,
circle again.
yes,
Like, but
isn't
it's showing up more authentically you, though, like
right.
what you're doing and how you're holding space. But
Yeah,
because that's the thing, like, I mean, I have a woman, oh, Anne Drake, I love her. She's like, I've been into Reiki and everything for so long, but not everybody was into it. But I always just led. She had I think she said she had a fitness club, but she always understood the power and just the support that energy work can do, and why it's so important to pay attention to like your own, energy hygiene, I'll say, because it really matters, and the frequency and the vibration and how you're feeling really goes into it, and mentally and emotionally and just, all that stuff. But she was like, there really weren't a lot of people. Like you'd have to really look for your tribe then,
right,
and she's so delighted, that now there's so many people, especially I noticed after COVID, a lot of people while they were home started looking into probably things and had the time to slow down to look into those things. Like, how do I feel better? Kind of like what I went through. How maybe there's something else I can try that's different. And so we all had a lot of time to research that, or just felt drawn to those things. But
right.
It's amazing you were in Carlsbad. I do know that my one of my bucket list items, I wanted to always meet Louise Hay, back in
Yeah.
the day when I started reading her book, and I actually wanted to work at Hay House Publishers. I was like,
Oh,
"Good job there."
I know.
But Spirit was always like, "Besides reading all this stuff, why don't you go out and do the work now?" And so that was what I started hearing, and so I started studying, like I said, the Healing Touch program, and then, I, uh I moved with my husband. When I started getting set up in Illinois, I had people, friends to work on and started getting my clinical hours. And then I wanted to take Reiki and I wanted to try all these other things. But we moved out to the East Coast from Illinois. And I had to reset up everything. And then I found a great wellness center out here, Sagewood, where's where I got my start. And so I was hourly there and I started building up my clientele. And Angela McGill had opened that and had the vision for that space. And it was a wonderful space because it gave me the ability to practice and see clients and build all that up while I had little ones at home because I couldn't have people just coming to my house that way. So I'm really grateful eternally for her. And so now when COVID had happened, she moved away to a different country, and that shop was going to close. So I decided, like, well, I got to keep this going. Like, I want to keep a space open for practitioners and healers and people moving to the area or people that are here. So I found a space, and then COVID happened, and then I found the space I'm at now, which is in 2020. I opened Color My Spirit Wellness, and I do have actually some practitioners there that are from Old Sagewood, you know,
Oh, wow.
and then new people that have moved to the area are coming, and just saying, "Oh, I'm so glad there's a wellness center like this." We have Zach, he does acupuncture there, and Carolyn Sheehan, she teaches hypnotherapy. She taught me to hypnotherapy, and so my vision was just to have a space where other different practitioners could come and offer services to clients, and we even get referrals now from doctors and counselors,
Wow.
which has been amazing since COVID happened because before that we weren't really considered. We're called like health service providers now. Like they actually like call us
Oh,
that,
wow.
because that is true. It's like very much so this work is so valuable with like patient care, client care, or counseling, and it can help in conjunction with any of the traditional things that are out there. It's just sometimes people don't know what they don't know. So a lot of people come and they're like, I didn't even know about any of this, or I didn't know you guys were here. I didn't know there are practitioners that offer these things. And so then their whole world kind of opens up and they get excited and they try different things, and some modalities speak to some people more than others. So that's why
Right.
it's nice to have a space where you have a lot of different people trained in different things.
Yes, that's my dream. I know I shared that with you, and I talk about that on this podcast about my Soul Haven Healing Center. And when I met you, and I'm like, you have that? And it's exactly in my mind, like what I've created in my head, because I had that day spa, right? So
Yes,
it
yes.
keeps coming through my automatic writing, like you had the day spa, that was your practice. Now
Mhm.
you're going to do it in this way, the healing modalities. But
Mhm.
before we continue on to explaining your magic, what is your take on, we keep talking about 2020, but
Yeah.
there was such a shift there.
Yes.
And why now people are open? Like, what do you tell me your, like when you see it from your higher self, your higher perspective, and
Mhm.
you're saying, okay, this is what the world is going to, the frequency, the
Mhm.
energy shift, this new earth that people keep talking about. We talk about that on this podcast a lot.
Okay.
And it's those same words that keep coming up now,
Yeah.
especially between 2020 and now, this last 5 years. And
Mhm.
it's such, the disclosures, the opening, the
Mhm.
AI, all these things that are coming so fast.
Yeah.
But to think to bring it back to 2020, when it was 2000 and we were seeing that, but now it's just like, oh, okay, that's just common talk.
Yeah. So it's been interesting. I've studied it, like what our friend Jeannie, like astrology and everything. And so I'm not as studied as she is, and I want to learn from her more. But I do look into some things at times when I notice big shifts in the world. So I try to see what's changing and shifting because what I've heard from spirit over the years is that so when 2020 happened, of course, a lot of us wanted to go into like kind of that fear mode, like, oh my gosh, it's so scary. Things have totally drastically changed and there's scary stuff out there. And, we're being told these things. And so what I was hearing from guidance and spirit and God was that the floodgates are going to open. You need to go apply to be essential. People are going to need this work. And I'm like, the floodgates are going to open. And I mean, literally, like, that couldn't have been more true. And I tell other practitioners that all the time. I'm like, that is what has happened. You know, if you look around and take a step back from not the detail of like it was a lot, there was unfortunately a lot of people that passed, and there was some hard things that we all went through as, you know, a world. And it wasn't just a society or a, you know, country, it was the whole world going through it. So how I see it is that there are systems in place that are just not working or supportive for people as much anymore, and they're in all different aspects like schools, politics, medical. You know, it comes down to big stuff, but it comes down also to individual stuff like people's families. People want more, people want different relationships. There's a big push like about narcissists, and they don't want to be around toxic people anymore. Like we're seeing all these things kind of happen because what I feel like is happening is the stuff that's been hard or hidden, that's been kind of dark or keeping people kind of low vibration, is needing to kind of come up to heal. And but we have to see it in the light. We can't just like turn our cheeks and be like, oh, it's not there, I don't believe it's there. Because if you keep doing that, I feel like we're in a space now, and I've heard this from guides, that everybody has to look at their own, and I heard the word honestly turmoil. Like it's like you have to kind of go through that extreme or those feelings and face them. It's like other people call them shadows. Like you have to do your own
Right.
shadow work, but it's not just your own shadow work, it's your family lineage shadow work. It's your global humanities shadow work. It's the human you know, like it's the world's shadow work. So we're not only just responsible for focusing on ourselves individually, but we need to kind of look at like, well, is there something else I can do to help support family lineage? Or do I need to like maybe set boundaries in a healthy way so that I don't have to deal with XYZ anymore? And you will also notice that there are some people around that, you know, they don't understand that, or um, don't want to do the work. Like, because I mean, it's going to take each of us. I feel like we're in a space now where it's going to take each of us to really look at ourselves, at least at the very least, to try to see like, is there something I can do better? Is there a way I can refine what I'm doing? Do I like how I'm showing up in the world? Do I like how I'm showing up for my family or my relationships or work or whatever it is? And it's not okay anymore just to turn the other cheek and to be like, oh, it's good enough, you know? And I feel like summarizing that, because of what I've seen with the cosmos and the astrology stuff that I've looked into, I've also heard from my guides that we have to get back as a society to looking at the stars again, like literally what Jeannie does,
Right.
because ancient human cultures were doing that. And so from an anthropological standpoint, when I was in anthropology school, um maybe it was certain professors I had, but it was almost like the theme was kind of like, well, those people were ancient, they weren't as educated as us, or they weren't as technologically advanced. But I never, that never sat right to me. I was like, those people do not have the distractions that we have on a daily basis. They don't have the gadgets that, like, you know, keep them from doing their own work or sitting in a quiet space or being with their families. Sometimes, you know, people spend so much time away from families now because they're so busy, 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 and
Right.
everyone's getting stressed. And so what COVID did for us was to say, we're going to slow this down and have everyone, allow people to take the space to look at these things and be like, do you like how you're showing up? Do you like how your family feels? Do you like how things are going? And a lot of people made changes then, but they kind of quietly did because there was so much going on in the world. But like all of a sudden, I mean, I remember looking around Raleigh and I'm like, there are so many people living here now, you know, like
Oh,
people are
funny.
moving like a lot, you know, like, you know, and doing it properly with like masks and stuff. But there were a lot of people making big changes during that time. And we're in that phase to make and look at those changes. And some of them might be kind of hard for people, or it might feel painful, but it will bring you. So what I was hearing from guides too last year was there's like a land bridge we all have to kind of cross. And so it's not a literal place we all have to go to, but everyone's got to make a choice, like keep living, turn the other cheek, just stay kind of stuck, or look a little bit and see the door that's opening there and think, oh, I'm going to walk through that and see what that feels like, you know, and it will actually bring you to a better space and place. But we're all like seeing it on so many different levels. I call that like quantum. So it's overwhelming for some people because it's like we're not just like, as it used to be like, oh, I'll just pay attention to my own stuff and work on myself really good. But now it's like it's out here, it's out in the world, we're seeing stuff in the news, and there's things changing and breaking down, and people are really emotional. And that's what's happening because it needs to happen. It needs to come to the surface so that we can look at it and finally be like, can we make this better? Can we do better for humanity? Can we do better for our generations coming up? And that's, I mean, how I have seen it since COVID. And that's I feel like we will never go back to 2019 or before, you know,
Right.
society. And but we're not supposed to. And it's just written in the stars. I mean, if you don't listen to me or your podcast, you just people look it up in astrology. Like, I mean, that's like what's happening right now, you know? So it's big
Right.
stuff. But it's not as easy. There's no easy button for it though, you know. I know
Right.
everyone likes the easy button, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, so you did the healing touch because you
Mhm.
are so gifted and weren't really aware of those gifts until you started like learning the Reiki and the healing touch
Yeah.
that started coming. Will you explain that process of what you started developing or realizing, uncovering your magic?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, so that's like what I got. So I had asked God, I'm like, please, you know, I want to know what my purpose is in life. That was kind of what I wanted to find after I got out of college. And I felt really frustrated not figuring out that it wasn't nursing for me and it wasn't counseling. And I was like, what am I meant to do? You know? And so I had to basically go through my own turmoil or like breaking myself down to figure out it's like the yin and the yang. It's like I had to see the darkness or like the shadow and feel that to find the light. And so that's like kind of where a lot of people are. And like some people call that a awakening. I had like kind of an awakening while I lived by myself in Chicago in my 20s, but it was very spirit led. And so when I was sick, what was happening to me was I felt bad for myself, of course, and sad that no one could help me, but I wasn't supposed to get that help because what was happening to me was I almost had like a rebirth. Like I never was into like all of these, you know, I'm color my spirit. Like I love colors and chakra colors and you know all these things and brights. Back if you knew me before that, I was into like wearing just black all the time and browns and like more muted colors. I would never wear like a neon color or do my
Oh,
hair these
really?
colors. You know, oh yeah, no.
Oh, wow.
And so when I went through, I call it like some people call it dark night of the soul. I started looking into that because I'm like, I think there's some weird stuff going on with me. But it was really kind of like I feel like God and Spirit was breaking me down to bring me back anew. And how I was kind of my thought process before that, and things weren't just as supportive for what I was, I guess, meant to do, you know, in the world. So I instead of feeling so what I started doing was when I started taking energy classes, I would notice that I would work on somebody and that the program would teach you the hand positions and just how to do energy. That's all. And what I was noticing was I was seeing sparkles, or I was getting information, or I was noticing, you know, energy or messages coming through in my mind. And I would try not to look at those things because in the program back then, you weren't supposed to, you know, be giving out any information like that. You know, it was like you're just doing this program, that's all it is. But I realized so I told God, I was like, well, I don't want to see these things if I'm not supposed to deliver those things to clients, you know. I just need to just go and show up and do my hand positions and feel it through my heart and that's it. But what I noticed was I was uncovering my gifts and my magic as I kept studying and doing the work. And so I was being shown by God and my guides that you have abilities. And honestly, I feel like we all have these abilities. I
Hmm.
feel like, you know, it's like people that are born with really big muscles and some people aren't, and they have to go to the gym and work harder for that, right? So some people are born with it wide open, and some people, but the reason I also know this is because studying anthropology. So I truly believe that as humans, ancient culture, when we used to live outdoors or, you know, be around like not our big buildings that are keeping us safe with alarms and things, that we needed to have those radars, that intuition, that ability to have those gut feelings to protect our children, to know when there's predators, to know when we needed to like be safe. So I know, I mean, I promise you, I know everybody can have these gifts in different ways, but it's just that in society, we aren't raised to like lean on them in the way that we're
Right.
set up right now. But that's why things are kind of changing and breaking down because I really do believe that like God and the world wants us to move in that direction. And so people are having little mini like awakenings or experiences or getting interested in these different things. And that was the floodgates that I was told were going to open because it's time for us to get back to actually the way that ancient people, you know, did some things because those things worked really well. Because we're in a time now too where it seems like there's some groups or things going on that it seems like there's a lot of mistrust out there. So isn't it a good idea to just lean on your own radar and ask yourself, like, if you should trust somebody that maybe has a smile on their face, but maybe their intentions are bad, right? So you want
Right.
to keep your family, yourself safe, by leaning on yourself. And that only comes with practice if you can go inward and practice the uncovering those gifts for yourself, you know, and knowing what your yeses and nos are. Like, oh, somebody's smiling and offer, it's like stranger danger. Like, you know, someone comes up, offers you candy, doesn't mean you should take it. That's what we grew
Right.
up with, you know, being told. But they
Right.
have a smile on their face or they have a puppy. Well, no, we that's still not somebody we should trust. But how do kids and people develop those instincts so that they can trust themselves or have the confidence to say no instead of just saying yes to somebody that might have not great intentions. And I feel like we're in that phase where a lot of us as humans need to learn to lean on that more. So it's like again the yin and the yang. I do believe we're still in a COVID like era, even though it's not the virus going around. There's kind of other things that are affecting people. So
Right. So when you're speaking of your gifts, and because I've experienced your gifts,
yeah.
when when I started doing, I want to explain what you do first of all, but and I know you do many things, but what I experienced with you was a distance healing. And I've never experienced that before. And I've never realized the power in laying here on my couch for an hour and I just meditated. And while
Mhm,
you were healing me
mhm,
on your massage table,
mhm,
and what I was feeling during that time, and what our experience was on the call
mhm.
after, and you explaining what you had found out about me, which was, I mean, if anyone's listening right now, you got to have this experience because it's unlike anything I've experienced. And it was, and you're so, I don't want to say the word gentle, but it's like this feeling of like, wow, she went into all of my chakras. She knew what the ones that weren't moving,
Mhm,
flowing right.
mhm, mhm.
And then everything connected to, oh yeah, that is true. Or like, I'm like, oh yeah, I do have that feeling, or my throat. So will you explain kind of how you put your magic all like into this, but and also explain other things that you do because you work with animals and children and
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, as I developed, like, I started working on people, I stopped offering just energy work sessions because what I realized was I have ability to tune into someone's fields when I'm given permission to. I don't do that just to anybody, you know, or anything. Cause I think sometimes people get confused about how people work that way. And I feel like sometimes when I'm talking to people that know what I do, they feel like I'm like laser looking at them like they're
right,
naked in front of me or something. It's like, no, 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 guys, I don't do that. I'm not like that all the time. So I've asked spirit, like, because when I had my awakening, I was able to like sense a lot of things every day. And I was shown my whole day before my eyes every morning before I got out of bed, how things were going to go, who I was going to meet. I was going to go to dinner or asked to go to dinner with someone after work. That's how work was going to go for like 6 months or more, like
wow,
super intuitive. But I was so expanded though with that while they were like, well, it's like God and guides were showing me that it was like startling. It was like too much. And so I feel like to survive in society, I was like, okay, I just want to turn that way up when I'm working on people. But if I'm just being a mom or hang out with my friends, like I'm not like analyzing things because it is like a little bit of a hyper ability to like kind of hyper analyze. I feel like I'm like a scanner sometimes. Like I can scan and pick up on things that other people may not notice are there, you know. But again, that came with practice. Because I'm an intuitive empath, I can feel people's feelings. I am intuitive then, so I get visions. And as I've practiced over the years, I can see visions, I can hear things, I can smell. I even tasted in a session somebody's chewing gum, and I could tell them exactly what type of chewing gum their
oh
son
my
was
gosh,
chewing, and they were like, "Yeah." I'm like, and that was a new experience for me. But and that was a distance session too. The person wasn't here, but so, but what I kind of do is I've been trained in energy and then trained to read chakras as well. And then because I was an intuitive empath, my beautiful mentor, Carolyn Howard, she was an intuitive mentor, intuitive empath too, and she taught me, okay, I want you to scan fields. So, and I did. So, with your permission, I videoed some raw footage of like our session actually a couple weeks ago, you know, and so I could show people like what I kind of do in a session with distance work. Because honestly, even some of my clients in person, they were like, "How does that work? Like, how do you do distance work, you know? And honestly, like this work overall is all through intention. So as long as you can hold a heart-centered space for someone to feel better or set a goal with you, and you're hoping for them or sending them prayers that they'll reach that goal or be able to figure out what steps they need to take to get to that goal, really honestly is all this work is, you know?
Right.
And as I've practiced over the years, I have refined my gifts of being able to pick up on things or get messaging. So I take a lot of notes in my sessions when I hear messages, and I'll even be shown if it's their soul, like their spirit telling me that, or if I can ask questions into that information. So, like psychic abilities and intuition, but it's also for everyone's highest good, always the sessions that I do. So, it's from a heart centered space. And I've people sometimes will treat me like a counselor, but I have no counseling training. So, I refer out for that. But when somebody has come in and they've maybe have hidden trauma that they haven't verbally shared, I'll ask spirit not to show me the scenes of what happened to them, maybe in childhood or what they went through, but also to respect their boundaries that way. And then if so they'll usually show me a block or they'll show me like some other aspect that's more gentle to bring the topic up, you know. And a lot of times, anytime that's come up in people's sessions, they are like, mm-hmm, I didn't tell you that, but yeah, that's there. And again, they don't need to share more than that. And then I'll just say like, well, it's being worked on, or you know, get messaging. It still needs going to probably be a couple sessions, or you needing to process that time period in certain ways to get rid of that block in your energy field. So, but when what I do in my sessions is I check chakras and then I scan fields, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual fields. And when I start checking chakras and scanning fields with my hands, I literally do that. I have the video footage of me, even if you're not there, I'm doing that. And I'm getting information on that person because my intentions are working on that person like I worked on you. Um, and I'll start getting messaging and I'll start writing notes because I want to always write and honor somebody's space. If I hear a message said a certain way from spirit or their soul or guides, I always need to feel like quote it because it helps to unlock a lot of things in your subconscious mind. And that's what a lot of this work does is if people aren't in tune with their emotions or they want to clear their space a little bit, like do a deep dive with energy work that way. Um, if they're not sure what's there, where to start, the session will definitely give you a big starting point. But a lot of times, the way that a message is said or reported is very important. I've realized because I studied hypnotherapy with Carolyn Sheehan, and so it just really because then it also if it's also a guide from their family lineage or like a grandparent, their personalities will come through like in the way they say things. So I always try to honor like how those messages come through so the person understands. And I think you had a message that came through
Yeah.
from your soul, you know, and you really I think for your session, I don't know if you want to share, but
Yes,
you know,
share. I'd love to share.
you were like, I would just work on me. I'm not setting any goals or I don't know what to expect. And, you know, so your session was kind of like that, but I was able to get, you know, information about you you know, within your comfort zone and shared those things with you. And I got like a specific quote, I think, in your root chakra
Right. What's meant to be will
is
be.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
meant to be. And
And I told you I say that all the time. That probably that saying, that sentence comes out of my mouth for sure at least once a day.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, once a day. Wow. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's in your root. So that root chakra is going to be your foundation, your relationships. It's the first one that develops when we're born. So yeah, it's really in your foundation there. But your soul, your spirit had told me that, you know, when I was checking you and I was like, "Oh, so what I feel like I do in my sessions is that I'm like almost like a detective. Like I'm kind of like all right, I'm going to start uncovering this way. I'm going to check chakras, then I'll start maybe getting information or seeing if they're open or closed, how they're functioning. They'll show me patterns sometimes of closures and openings that equal certain maybe feelings that people are having. So I'll take notes on that. And then I check back too, because back tends to be past life, inner child, really like childhood type stuff that some people are still carrying around with them that even though we're like in maybe in a space where like that happened like 7 years ago, I'm over that. Your body still holds on to things though. And that's what I think we don't realize when we're not taught in human, you know, in society is that even if you're past it mentally, you could still be carrying that kind of energetic imprint around you in your human biofield or your aura. So that's what energy work is really good at doing is because what happens is if we get backlogged, people start saying like I can't think clearly. I feel so absent-minded. I'm feeling so tired. I don't know why. And yes, it could be other things going on, maybe vitamins low, right? Or you need to get some more rest and do some self-care. But it could also be that we're almost like a computer, each person, because we have good life experiences, exciting things that happen, and hard things that happen in our lives. And so we're here. And so what happens is that our mind records all of that. And we may not think about all those things every day, but if there's been some traumatic things or things that we didn't process emotionally because maybe it wasn't appropriate to in the environment, or we were told by somebody, I don't want to hear you complain, we stuff those things down and they just kind of get stuck out in our human biofield, like in our aura. And even though we're past it, after a while, if a bunch of things happen like that, it can feel heavy and we can get backlogged just like a 2.0 computer versus like a 8.0. You'd want the
Right.
faster hard drive and the better technology, right? So what energy work helps to do is do a really nice reset, and especially for people that are sensitive and empathic that feel a lot, they definitely notice that when they do energy work or they get a session done, it is like hitting a huge reset button. But even for people that aren't as sensitive, they'll report, I feel different. My arm, like old injury pain started acting up, but now it's better. Like there's so many different things people report from sessions because we're all so unique, that we all experience our sessions differently too, based on what layer we're uncovering.
Right. So so I'm visualizing and I want people to understand you have a massage table and you have like stones for
Yeah.
each chakra and you
Oh, no. Well, I usually, so some people, yeah, I have just, they're felt circles.
Oh, okay. Because when I was looking at the video, I said, "Oh, what are those?" Oh, okay, so felt circles with the color of each chakra.
Yeah. So that's how I work from distance. And some people ask me, like, do you do stones on the chakras in your sessions? Now, I'm sure there are some practitioners that do, but I don't. I did have, so in certain people's sessions, sometimes, especially at distance, I'll be told certain stones that I have to have around the
Oh,
room.
yeah.
So like as soon as I was coming up to get ready for your session a couple of weeks ago, my green Andara, and I brought it because I was like, this one never comes into people's sessions.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
It's just, really beautiful. There's another genie I know. The only other genie I know in the world is Jeannie Russell in Kauai, in on the Kauaian island. And she taught me about Andaras, and she goes to Mount Shasta and does retreats, and she also teaches about Andaras, and I never heard of them before. And I was just drawn to some of them when I met her, when I got to go to the island a couple of years ago. So I actually have Andaras from her shop that I offer on the mainland, because she's like, only people that come to Kauai can see these. Can they be at your shop? I was like, sure. So just a little plug for her. They're 30% off now at Color My Spirit if anyone's really drawn to wanting to learn. But they come in all different colors. I have a clear one too that's just so beautiful, and like an ocean wave one behind me. Um, but they all like kind of
Wow.
do different things, and they hold different energy, and they really are drawn to certain people, and that's how sometimes people just pick them. They're different than just a crystal or a quartz or an amethyst. But they are, a lot of them are found around the world now because it's like kind of the time for people to level up and like kind of get really in touch with things on a different level than we were just functioning before the COVID time period. So she gets hers from Mount Shasta, and so they're just really special. But the green one came in, and so that was even before I even checked you. All you told me was your intention, and the green one's like wants to be there. I was like, okay. So I also have these beautiful Andara Oracle cards that Jeannie in Hawaii introduced me to. And they each of them have a different color of an Andara on them and tell you a
Huh.
bit about them and even a picture of them. So like the clear one is here too. And they'll give you kind of a summary, but I work with them too. Like I'll pull them. And even if you don't own the stones, you can resonate with the energy of them just on the pictures, which is beautiful. But yours, it was so like perfect for you, the green one, because the green one, it's the brilliant green Andara that I have, one of them, was like working with the heart chakra and the thymus gland and speaking up for your highest good. And I feel like that was so that's what starts happening is like I start taking notes and I won't know clearly like right away why, but I'm like, okay, this one, and I'll look into things. And then we start checking chakras and I start getting messaging. And then the session always develops into this beautiful, like all-encompassing message, but on so many different levels for people. So you definitely needed the green Andara, because that was some of the areas that were coming up in your session. And I had never I mean, I spoke to you on the phone, but like I had never met you. I don't know much about you, you know? And so I was
Right.
able to kind of analyze and just in the session and get messaging for you. But honestly, I feel like it was so fitting this one with the heart and speaking up and finding your voice for that and also making sure you're speaking your truth. And then the brilliant green is also connected to like earth energy, you know, so it's like the planet and everything too. So, but I'm always like in awe of everyone's sessions because I love all the synchronicity that comes out of everybody's sessions. Even if it has
Yeah, I bet.
nothing to do with me, it just is amazing to witness and watch. Because and like you were telling me, I took like 3 pages of notes and you know, because you were a little quiet like when I was talking to you, and I was like, oh, I'll have to see how because I wasn't sure if you've had, you know, energy work like this done or messages and stuff. But you were just like, "Oh my gosh," you know, and so I think you were just kinda, like, just taking it all in, you know, from the session.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so yeah,
But so now explain this to people.
yeah.
So when I've been watching now that you've shared the videos, which really
Mhm.
helped me understand it better, thank you for doing that. So
Yeah.
you're taking the pendulum
Uh-huh.
and I could see it like when you were showing me like the back and forth, like when you're around my throat and my pineal gland, and it was kind of blocked, and then it got to my heart. Now that you told me like, "Wow, your heart's really open," but when I watched the pendulum, when you went over my heart chakra, and it was like in this huge circle, like going around and around, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's what she means by that." But
Yes.
you're clear explain how that what that process is.
Yeah, so when I'm check in the beginning, when I'm checking after I get intentions and we set up a time to start working, and I'll hear from sometimes the stones, like the Andara that want to come in the session and be with you. But I will start checking with chakras. I connect to your field. I ask, you know, like to just have that space to do that for your and set intentions for your highest good. And then if anyone has a goal or a question, I set those intentions. But so I started checking and yes, you're it's like you had some closures in your upper chakras in the front, which again, I in the videos I went back, I was like, see, it makes a lot of sense because when we check those things in the beginning, these are the messages coming through. But anyway, your heart chakra was probably one of the biggest spins I've seen on, you know, at times I'll see people with really open heart chakras, which is beautiful. But when a chakra is really open and it's spinning like a dinner size plate spin, that's kind of like a really enlarged energy, but a lot of energy there. So when I was in your space working on you, I then start feeling feelings when I'm working on somebody, like even if they're not in front of me. I can tell if they have anxiety, I can tell if they have heartbreak, I can tell if they are feeling like they got hit in the chest and then wind knocked out of them at some point. Like things will start happening to me like that. So I put those pieces together and I write the notes so I can talk through all that with the person. But for you, I wasn't feeling like you have anxiety, but I was feeling like you have such an expansive, beautiful heart chakra space that you maintain. That's like who you are. So you didn't really need energy work there, except that sometimes it might be so expanded that it's like too much and it could possibly like I feel like it feeds into your female energy side because you have a very lovely, nurturing left female energy side, which is another area I'll check in the videos and you know when I do sessions. But your heart chakra was just so open, expanded. When what I learned, what I heard from spirit many years ago is that, and I've also I think read this in a couple books, but not all over the place, is that when the heart chakra is really full, it's not just for loving others, it's loving yourself. So if you're somebody that realizes the worth of not just being somebody that shows up and loves others, but then sacrifices themselves or doesn't do self-care, if you're also then giving back to yourself and making space for yourself and say, can look in the mirror and be like Louise, hey, like I love you. Like, and I'm not
Mhm.
going to say you have wrinkles or you have gray hair, you know, all the things
Right.
people do, right? It's like you can just generally look in the mirror and say you love yourself. That expands your heart so much and it activates like your whole biofield. And it's actually the one chakra in the whole chakra system that can maintain all the other chakras if it's open and really supported. So like you
Huh.
could pretty much like work with your own energy to maintain like your other chakras or set intentions to open the other ones or check into why are they closed and probably get your own information that way. But if some people don't have a heart chakra that's that open or sometimes it's closed, and so we kind of start asking like, well, why is this person blocked there? And a lot of times it can be like not trusting others, heartbreak, feeling guarded in life. They have anxiety, you know, there's a multitude of reasons why sometimes people get shut down there. And over time, I've worked on people where they've also like had, maybe like a cancer in that area, like lung cancer or breast cancer. So those actually also play into why maybe an energy center might be shut down or blocked. And what we want to do is with energy hygiene is like make sure we're managing our energy space so that we don't just get a bunch of congestion energetically that mounts up over time into a big pile and heap, because over time the physical body is the slowest to catch up. So if you are just kind of like stuffing feelings down, or like, feeling a heartbreak and not looking into why or helping yourself feel better, that stuff can just build up over time. And I mean, I really do believe like it can also like bring on physical problems in the
Oh, me
physical
too.
body because of that heaviness and that baggage that's just sitting there, and that sluggishness, like we talked about the computer not running as sharply. So it's very important, but you don't have to do it through energy work. Like if some people are like, I'm not into that. It's like, do something though to like help, recycle your energy field and feel like clear yourself out of like the toxicity or the negativity or the stress, and fill yourself back up with like the positivity and the love and like your own light. And everyone, like, we need to like start teaching people that specifically individually, and teaching, like you said, young people, because a lot of young people are interested in all this. you know
Oh, believe
like,
me. I
it's
know.
amazing. They're so natural to it. You know,
Right.
they're not as like back before COVID, a lot of adults would be kind of like shut down and not wanting to talk to me anymore. Like if they're like, "What do you do?" And I'd say, "Oh, I do this." They'd be like, "Oh, I'm not into that. I just go to my doctor." And I'm like, "Oh, that's fine." But I'm like, energy works for everybody. Like anybody can get it. You don't have to just go if you're not feeling well. It's a part of self-care. Like if you go and get a massage and treat yourself. But I do feel like we should start looking into everybody, like their own energetic fields and their mental emotional connections to things, because it will go into not just, they say food is medicine, but also how we're feeling is medicine.
Right.
We really need to pay attention to that more. And I do feel like COVID helped realize for us that we don't have a very good handle on mental health in this country. I don't know if other countries do, but I feel like the US has not. And I feel like the older generations have always said, I have people in my family like this. Well, I'm not going to go to a counselor unless something's wrong with you. Like, you don't go unless something's broken. But it's like, well, there's no shame at all in just checking into how you're feeling. And then, I feel like if we did that more as a society, we wouldn't have so many like adult, I call them adult tantrums, like people like doing really dangerous things because they're so angry and they've had it with like whatever's going on. And then what happens is some of those people take other people down with them. And it's just
Right.
so sad. And I feel like that's a reflection of like not having the support with mental health that a lot of people grew up not having, or we just weren't aware that that was so important. But now, hey, it's important, like pay attention. I just want to
Right.
shout it from the rooftops. Like, and the only reason I know a lot of this is just because of my life experience of what I went through, and the huge like difference in my life before and my life now, and how I can manifest things. And people will meet me and they assume things about me. They're just like, "Oh, you've probably had it so easy and so good in life and all those things." And I'm like, "You want to sit down? It's going to take a couple hours, but like it has not always been easy, but I can tell you how to get here." And that's what I want to do. I feel like my purpose is to like share, like, how do you change things? Like if you don't like the cards you're dealt, and but you don't have to feel like life's just happening to you. Life is
Right.
always happening for you.
Right.
That's how
Yeah,
I feel.
that's another word. That's another sentence I use all the time. And I've taught my girls that. And so I can see now that they live like that.
Yes.
I just looked at the time. I'm like, what the heck? It's
I
already been
know.
almost
Huge
an hour,
time
but
jump.
there's a little bit more things that we need
Yeah.
to kind of close up, but I still want to
Yeah.
talk about this.
Mhm.
So you'd give me while you're clearing the chakras, I
Mhm.
just want people to get this. So you go through the back, that's your past lives, because mine was clear. Like you didn't,
So in the moment, like so everything. So because we're like peeling away, we're like they say that you'll hear people say we're like an onion. You peel away one layer, there's another layer there, right? So we're not like saying, oh, you've just had one session. And some people do think this. This is good that you brought this up. Some people would say like, well, I just want to heal everything in this one session, and I just need one session, right? And it's like, again, there's no easy button. Like,
right,
I hope for you do. And I'll hear sometimes in some people's sessions, they actually need to come back a couple times. And I always tell people, like, I'm not salesy. Like, I want you to be empowered so you don't have to come back and
right,
spend money or see me. But a lot of people like to come back and just talk to me and stuff. So, we have like good, relationships that way. But But it's like my purpose is to empower you, to teach you things you may not have known growing up so that you can maintain yourself. And I hope for you that like you come in and you can maintain your chakras being open, or if you have a closure, you don't feel well, you kind of know some tools to help you change that, and be empowered that way. So that's always my intentions for everybody that I work with. But so I'm like thinking, well, so, but yeah, we just want to make sure that so the back tends to be not just past lives though. It can be like inner child. It can be like childhood. It could be so like say like you worked through one layer and like so for you, I think your session was more like this is who Ashley is. Like this is something she needs to know to help maintain her space. And these are some tips that she can use, that she knows about her gifting and like that she can use to like help her maybe set healthier boundaries, if she's feeling like people around her don't like get her or that they just resonate in a different energy, right? So, but that doesn't mean that the next time you come in, you're not going to have the same experience. So like it'll probably be that we'll get more information, but on a deeper level. So again, we're just like kind of peeling away layers. So that's why I say some people will come in monthly or every few months just for like a tune up, but also to see what's there. And lately, end of last year or last year, end of last year, and I'd say last year was really heavy with inner child work for people. So what will happen is if inner child or past lives come up on the table, I'll get blips of that and information, but it won't be like a full session of past lives because I can do one of those too in hypnotherapy or energy or readings. Inner child, I was kind of shown how to set intentions to bring that stuff out. So we can kind of, because some people will say, I just know something was off, my childhood, or I don't know what age like I was having trouble. And so like we can get that information to clear up some things, to reconnect some dots so that you can move on. So with this work, it's like we're pinpointing things that are important or that are very triggering for people, whether they realize it or not, so that they can kind of like say hello to it, but they don't have a lot of homework to do. It's like a lot of times with energy work, if it comes up in a session in a message or somebody's thinking that and they want to work through it and they set intentions to work through a topic, it'll sometimes like say, okay, yeah, like it's worked through, or yes, a couple more sessions and you'll get deeper. But again, there's no easy button. You have to like look at it and do the work. And so some people I think are just like, depending on if they've been through a lot of trauma or drama, they don't want to go back and, I get people that come in and they say, I don't want to start with a new talk therapist because like I have to tell them my whole story again. And so that gets tiring, especially if they feel like they haven't made a lot of progress with others that they've seen in the past, right? So we'll get a lot of people coming in saying like, I'm trying something different. I want to try it working with you. And so I don't ask them to start from like day one. But what this work does help do is a lot of times I can ask or say, what is for their highest good to know where they need to go from here to move forward, right? So we can get information to pinpoint where they need to start. That is helpful with children because I've done a lot of work with children where their parents feel like, I don't know, their behavior has changed. I don't know where that started. Is it a medical thing? Is it like a school thing? I don't know. They're going to a therapist, but the therapist is just starting, from base, right? So we can do sessions where we set intentions to know like what do we need to know about this issue or this change that's happened to relieve some of the worries the parents having so they have a better starting point to go then to a talk therapist and say, okay, I feel like it's school, or this person, Sarah, had said it sounds like that there's stuff going on at school. So why don't you start there? So that you
Huh.
won't have so many sessions you have to keep going. Because children too, I mean, some adults, but like children aren't as in touch with their emotions, some of them, and their words aren't as developed yet because their brains are still developing. So you can't expect a child to be a little adult and tell you everything in their day. And sometimes they miss the important things. And I wouldn't find out things until 10 o'clock at night sometimes about playground, behavior
Right.
or something that somebody was crying about all of a sudden because they forgot about it when they came home from school and had a snack, but then they remembered it at bedtime. So I think, don't get, and we're not at school with our kids, so we don't know how they're interacting or how their social stuff's going on. Besides, if the teacher is paying attention, the teacher has a lot of kids to pay attention to. So some of these sometimes I've gotten hired with children just to kind of pinpoint some things to give them give the parents some relief or just like a good base of like, okay, well, that's a good starting point. I'm going to take that angle and then go forward with their talk therapist or their teacher or whatever they need to do. And it also brings relief to the child. It also brings other information that comes through. And animals, I get a lot of rescue animals, people wanting to know, like, where was their dog before? Were they, in a bad home? Were they abused? Is there trauma there? Were they injured? But even if it's not a rescue animal, it'll just be people's animals, like with a change of behavior again. Like, so animals can't talk to us, using the human language, but if you pay attention, you can notice behaviors and patterns. I've always been somebody that can notice patterns of things. But with the messaging and everything, I can ask certain questions and then get information. And what happens is the animal will show me, like cats and dogs are mainly like the animals I've worked on. I've had a couple of horse people reach out, but they've wanted me to go in person. But because I scan and I analyze so much detail, I like to do little young babies or kids like at a distance, and also animals. I can't really bring animals into my shop. So, so I
A
usually
big horse.
yeah, yeah. But we still get so much information. I had a cat I worked on with a behavior change, was peeing out of the litter box, and the person that hired me was like, "I mean, the cat was never doing that. I don't know what happened. Do you think should I take it to the vet? Does it have a UTI? I'm just so lost. Can you just do some work?" I'm like, "Sure." So what I was hearing was that, I mean, I said, you can of course take it to the vet anytime and get that test done. I would never say don't, but the cat was really upset, and that person didn't share any of this, but the person had like traveled and been gone longer, and the pet was worried that their person wasn't coming back, and didn't know why they were gone so long, and did not like the person, that pet care person that they
Oh, wow.
left to take care of the pet. So it showed me that it was worried so much in its mind, like a person would experience. If you worry so much in your mind, a lot of times your digestive tract is like kind of wrecked. And so it became very inflamed in its digestive tract, as if it felt like it had a UTI, but it didn't. But it was peeing nonstop because of the
Oh,
constant worry it felt. So after we did the energy work, I just did one session, got that information, bridged that communication between the owner and its pet. The pet became more lovey with the owner. She told me, she's like, this one never does cuddles with me. I'm like, oh my gosh. Because the animal, I think it just knew that, like, oh, you understand me more. You finally understand what I'm going through, and that it's okay now. We understand each other. And then it stopped slowly, week after week, going out of the litter box.
huh.
I don't know if she did end up taking it to get a UTI test, but it didn't have a UTI,
Right.
So,
Oh, I love that. Oh gosh, Sarah. So let's tell people where to find you.
Mhm.
What the session I did was called. I think that's probably the first one people usually do with you.
Yeah, I like to get a good baseline on somebody that's new or someone I don't know. I mean, because you can share information with me, but a lot of times there's a lot of things lost in translation, or people forget that, oh, I do have back pain, or I do have anxiety, or because they're so excited about maybe one area. So I always like to kind of get a good baseline, because it's such a big scan and information that comes through in the sessions, just to kind of know, like, okay, this is the person, this is their intentions. Is there anything that we need to know starting here? And then I even can ask, like, what are some helpful modalities for this person that might help them get, on the right start, or help them reach their goal even faster? And it's not always sessions with me. Like, it might be acupunctures for them. They need to take yoga. They're a physical body moving person. Like, we get like a deeper dive into like how they kind of resonate, and like what can really support them. And, a lot of times people kind of already know, they just don't trust their knowingness, or they don't
Right.
trust themselves. And so it's a lot of nice confirmation too in sessions when I think in your session too, you're like, oh yeah, I know I'm like that. And just getting about the sensitivity and how expanded your heart chakra is, and how nurturing your female energy side is. So we'll get like some information like that, but then we'll also get some add-ons and some extra things that maybe you weren't aware of or know that's coming. But it's also, you can tailor things to just questions. But people can reach me at www.colormyspirit.com. That's the website for the shop and myself. And if we have a nice little area on the page where there's practitioners that are there, that have monthly rooms, and we have practitioners that come and go hourly, like I started out. And then we have people that are also off site, like in different states. And so you can kind of read everyone's bio and see like how their training is, what they specialize in, how they help people, and then go from there. But a lot of our sessions probably, I don't know, I think the acupuncturist would be hard to do distance, but, he's
Yeah.
very busy in person. He is wonderful. But a lot of sessions like hypnotherapy and energy can be done at a distance. And then we've got, some other people trained in some different coaching and different mechanisms that you can also do at a distance or in person. So it's really nice. But I'd say like a lot of people don't know where to start or they don't know what session to start with. The session that we did together that we've been talking on is messages and energy, or sometimes I call it energy and messages. But it's on the website, and but if I always tell people, if you have questions and you don't know who to start with or where to start, just reach out to me because I feel like I've been doing this work for so long now. I started in 2012 with, studying energy and then had my own healing before that and started reading about Louise Hay and all the different things with Hay House and those publishers, that I have a good kind of idea sometimes, but I can also just ask and just get some guidance sometimes for people. So I'm not opposed to like helping in that way. If people want to set up like a phone call, you can do that too. So, but I'm very reachable on email that way, or I think there's the phone number for the shop on there too. So,
Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for opening my eyes to the power of a distance healing and to feel it,
yeah.
actually feel it and know that afterwards, and you're saying it's 5 to 7 days, you're going to be detoxing and, so I would be very aware of my body and, um, yeah, it was amazing. So I'm so grateful that we connected. It's like the soul tribe of our community is all coming together
Hmm,
and
hmm.
I love it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ashley. So, well, thank you for this time and experience. And like I said, if anyone has any questions, just please feel free to reach out. So I'm so excited for everybody, though. The world is just changing in such good ways, too. So it's fun.
Yes. So good. So such exciting times. We all raised our hands so high to come during this time. It's like we are so lucky to be here right now. It's amazing to be a witness of this.
Yes, yes, it's beautiful. And then all of us, like you, holding space for others to teach others and to show others another way too that they don't know. Again, you don't know what you don't know. So thank you for this podcast too that you created because I know that it holds a big space for many people, I'm sure. So
Thank you.
yeah.